Bugling bulls. Yep, it's about that time. Bear season should just about be over when this episode drops. It's it's been fun. I got out hoping to get a couple more days. But then I'm going to be turning my sights on getting ready for elk season. And I suggest you do too if you're going to get to hunt elk this year, because you got 60 days about since when this episode drops. And maybe you ought to start getting in shape now. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. So this week's episode, get to talk to a legend as far as I'm concerned in the podcast world, Jason Samkowiak, the traditional bow hunting and wilderness podcast. He's got like 400 episodes out. When I first heard, I think it's like the first podcast I ever heard. And I was like, man, what is this? You know, somebody just talking bow hunting. This is cool. So he go over to his, there'll be a link in our show notes, but go over to his website. He's got a whitetail course that we talk quite a bit about. Super interested in it. I'm going to fetch it up and watch it myself. I'm not going to try to explain it all. There's tons and tons of information over there, kind of like a one-time purchase, and he keeps putting more information out there. But what really intrigues me is that it is more geared towards mountain whitetail. And yeah, so I am super interested in that. I'm looking forward to it. tbwpodcast.com. Like I said, there'll be a link in the show notes. Yep. And him and I probably cut from the same mold a little bit. This podcast could have went on forever. Although he's a little bit more into grazing in the outdoors. I get one thing I eat, that's morel mushrooms, but he's pretty adept at eating all kinds of roots and tubers and making teas and stuff. It's fun. I had a blast talking to him. The sponsors, yes, sir. The Footed Shaft, Selway Archery, Kifaru International, and of course, Blackwidow bows. That's what keeps this show going. Let them know you like the show and you appreciate them supporting us. Yeah, that's all I got. I'll shut up. Happy Monday. Enjoy the show. And I kid you not, this is embarrassing. Like,
That's funny.
I am with the podcast guru guy that I look up to, and I didn't hit record.
That's all right. No worries. It's been done many times. I've done it myself many times.
Dude, this is seriously it's the first. I thought I hit it. I must have. I'm so sorry, Jason.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. Like I said, I've done it. I did one with Steve Teray from Northern. First one we did on his Wyoming hunt. I didn't have the cord plugged all the way in, so we were talking, but the mic cord was like sticking out of the inlet a little bit and wasn't actually going in. Yeah, been there many times. No worries.
All right, you ready? I'll edit that out. How's that? I just edited the first 10 minutes out. I'm good. Jason, how's it going, man?
Going pretty good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. It's our first warm day here in northern Idaho, so can't be too bad.
Wow, I've been dying here. It's been, we're in northern Michigan, so temperatures here are usually, we get in the summertime, we get a few days that are in the low, 80s, but it's pretty rare. Maybe 5-8 days a year where we break 90 degrees. And this year we've had like 7 of them already, and it's only June. It's been pretty brutal hot here. I haven't been watching the weather. You know how the jet stream works, but I know, like, I was talking to guys over Blackwidow and stuff. It's been super hot over there. But here we have had, man, I was bear hunting last week, and there's still patches of snow that are usually gone 3 weeks prior. And it's not because of an extreme snowpack. It's just big, cool weather. So, how did you do on a bear hunt?
Oh, buddy. This has been so, part of me says shut up, because there's a lot of people that weren't able to hunt this year because of the COVID thing. But it has been a battle all year long. And actually last night was my last evening, and it was like, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. I've got baits that are really good. And I get up there and, gosh, I put something on Instagram about it. I started, so I got there about 2:00 in the afternoon. It gets dark at 9. I got plenty of time. I load my pack up to go down to the bait. It's about a third of a mile down there. I get about 100 yards from the truck and realize I left my camera on the tailgate and it's starting to sprinkle. And so I drop my pack, drop my bow, run back to the truck, nothing. Run back to the pack, load it up, grab my bow, and thought, I'm just going to go back to the truck and wait this little storm out. I get in my truck and lightning struck 20 yards from where I was standing and blew a freaking tree up.
Wow.
Yes, it was insane. It scared the crap out of me. Of course, I'm sitting in the truck and I was like, man, that was close. And then when the storm stopped, I walked over there. I was walking down to the bait now, and there is 15-foot chunks of trees stuck in the ground.
Wow.
It was crazy. So I went down and got in the stand, and I lasted about an hour, and lightning started hitting again. I thought, that's it. That's the end. But I was able to help a friend of mine get his first archery kill. That was really, really fun. So
nice, very nice. Yeah. And a bear is a perfect starter, for people. They're great animals to hunt. Now, I don't know what else because you guys don't hunt whitetails out there too much. Well, you do. You're in Idaho, so you got whitetails where you're at, right?
Yeah. Actually, we do. It's a little bit frustrating because they're mountain whitetails, and everybody. That's what I was going to ask you on your course. What we're talking, like we talking mountain woods, big woods whitetails. We're talking, agricultural whitetail.
Yeah, mostly big woods for me, but I do both. But now with your whitetails so you guys have whitetails out there, so you know what I'm talking about. So when it comes to somebody first time hunters, whitetails are tough. Now if you're hunting them over bait's one thing, because when they come into bait deer, they they're usually standing still, but even then they're so wiry because they're so spring loaded when they're in an alert place like a bait station. I don't bait, but a lot of people here do in Michigan. And there's, a lot of wounds that happen over a bait pile with a bow because they're too wired at that bait site, where bears, and then when you're catching deer in the wild, like how I hunt them, when you're on natural movement patterns, they're moving and it's a split second. Usually you got to bleed at them or something to get them to stand still and fire, but it's very fast paced, where with bears coming to a bait site, for a first time hunter, it's very relaxing. It's exciting, their heart's racing, but the shot sequence is nice because that animal is usually more stationary and not moving a whole lot, and it doesn't have to happen in the 1.4 seconds before that deer moves on.
Exactly. And this worked out so perfect because it was a guy that was with me during September of last year who he was with me when I killed a really nice bull, and he missed a 6-point bull 2 days prior because he just fell apart, which is normal. And then 2 days after I kill, he misses one. His arrow, I heard his arrow hit a stick on the way in, and he missed that one. All both clean misses, but he was mentally just thrashed. It was his fourth year with a bow, and so to be able to pick him up and get his first kill this spring was just super cool, man. It was just awesome.
Yep. And that's why I recommend it. Always blows my mind when I hear a lot of whitetail guys, especially, but there's something about the antlers. There's that, just an addiction to antlers, and a lot of guys are, well, I'm holding out, I'm not shooting anything unless it's 120, 130 inch deer. It's like, well, how many deer have you killed? Well, I've only killed one. Well, then you better start shooting anything that comes by, because you better start getting used to what's going to happen so that you're ready when you actually see a 130 and he's moving through. You've got all those little mistakes out of the way, and you can actually keep your composure, because like you just said with him too. I mean, those first couple animals, especially if you're using a traditional bow, where we're 100% mental on every aspect of it. There is no sight pins or nothing to make it easy for us, and it's all relies on our mind. And I've watched so many people that could drive tacks with a longbow at 30 yards on a 3D course, all day long. But then, you watch them, I'll be in a tree stand right next to them, and and here comes a deer, and they draw back, and I can, just by looking at them, I'm like, dude, your arrow's like, you're aiming like 5 feet below the deer. You're not even, I can tell by looking at you, you're not going to hit it. But they just, I forgot to bring my arm up. They just not, there's so much that can happen that you got to get that stuff out of the way a little bit. So sounds like your buddy got it out of the way and he's good now.
Yeah. This conversation, you and I are just, I'm pinging on so many things you're saying, and you just hit it out of the park with that, guys. And it's part of accuracy, or part of practice, right? You're practicing your shot. So many people put into the minutia of the shot, but really, when it comes down to it and you're shooting at a live animal, I mean, it is a ton different there. You got holding your crap together. That's not easy.
I cannot count. I could not count how many deer that I have missed under 8 yards, from a tree stand usually, but I mean, I cannot count how many, that I missed, just because, like you said, sometimes you just fall apart. Sometimes it's just something stupid. There's just so many variables that come into play with this kind of thing. It's, most of them were in the beginning days, but when it takes, it takes something to get that. It requires a certain amount of experiences in the field and time shooting live animals to get to that point where you're comfortable enough that you can hold your composure to do it on a pretty regular basis. Where you have to, it's almost like a ritual that most people have to go through of those few failures before they can hold it together like that. And yeah, it's part of the game, but you probably see it there too. A lot of people are fantastic shooting their bow all the time, but then you put a live animal in front of them and they fall apart,
Yeah. And that's a real struggle. And I'll just speak from where I'm at, regionally speaking. I mean, we get one deer tag, we get an elk tag, bear tag and all that. It sounds, real sexy to live in the West, but those guys down south that get to hunt hogs and get to shoot, a deer a day. And man, there is something to be said for that. Those guys will get more trigger time in 5 years than somebody where I live will get in 15 years. I mean, possibly 10 years, easy.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, the South is my, it's funny because, 15 years ago, I'm 46 now, but so, back when I was in my late 20s and even into my early 30s, everything I wanted to do was move out west. I was the romance of mountains and roaming and hunting and sleeping on a pad under a tarp and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. And honestly, don't get me wrong, I'd love to hunt out west, but now I look at it and my dream would be to actually move down south in the wintertime, or snowbird down there as we call it, so that I can do, I can be down there, like you said, in December, January, February, March, April. I can kill, even in Georgia where I get my non-resident tags, but for $250, I can kill 10 deer, unlimited hogs, 3 turkeys, and a bear. It's
for
like, there's just so much opportunity for like $230.
You can't buy a deer tag in Idaho. A non-resident couldn't buy a deer tag in Idaho for that.
Yeah, 10 deer, a bear, 3 turkeys, and unlimited hogs. And there is a lot of hogs down there. And not to mention small game, bull fishing, alligator gar. It's endless possibilities. So like you said, or even in Alabama where it's a deer a day, Louisiana, I agree with you. That southern stuff is pretty cool, but you don't have a lot of snakes where you are, I don't think. And I don't have many of them here. And I'll tell you what, down there though, as soon as that weather gets above 70 degrees, those things, they haunt me. They chase me through the woods. I do not like the cottonmouths and copperheads down there. Even the alligators. I was just down in Georgia in April. I went down there for my last hog hunt. I was like a mile and a half into the woods, into the swamp, nowhere near a river, nowhere near a lake, nowhere near anything like that, walking down a closed off DNR access road that they used to get in there for a fire cut road. And I came over a culvert over a little ditch, and there was like an 8-foot alligator on that culvert up there just sunning himself. I got video of him and everything. Not something you normally see in Michigan.
No. When I was Andrew Harper, you remember Wild Things, Andrew Harper?
Yes.
I hunted down there. I don't remember the year, but I told him when I got there, I was like, hey, I would love to get into hogs. That's why I'm here. But if I saw an alligator, it would make my trip. And he's like, it's pretty early. I kind of doubt you're going to see an alligator. And I walked up on 2 alligators sunning, like they weren't in the water.
Yep.
And you could have knocked me over with a feather. I mean, which I guess is, that's not surprising, but the size of the one, I got as close as I possibly could and took pictures, and I went back and I told Andrew, I was like, how big could I say I saw an alligator? How big could it be before you'd call BS? And I showed him the pictures. It was a giant, but I had to cross the water where I saw this thing like 2 minutes after it went back in the water. I was like one of those bugs that don't break tension on the water when I crossed. It's like, oh, but dude, that was so cool for me yeah, alligators are pretty cool, man.
Yep. But they do freak you out. It was the same thing. When I saw that one sitting there, I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I was just in this same ditch line. I mean, I have zigzagged over this thing, and it wasn't much more than knee deep, but I was up and down through this thing and crossing over both sides. It was only probably, I don't know, maybe 12 yards wide, little kind of thing. And, and I've been in that swamp water with waders on, that whole trip. I'm just going, wow. Okay. I would have expected gators to be in the lakes and to see them in, by the river or something like that. But to see them actually out here in the swamp, and then one of the local people told me, he said, well, it's mating season. They're traveling. These are males that are traveling great distances looking for girls, and they use the swamps to travel to. It's like, oh, God, okay. Yep. So I got to be careful now because I'm a short guy, which means my junk is pretty low to the water. I don't mind them nipping at an ankle, but, the rest of the stuff I got to worry about.
My buddy Mike and I were in Georgia on the coast doing one of those PBS hunts with Jeff Holchin. It was a blast, and we were cruising. We were probably 20, 30 yards apart, and we're kind of slipping along all of these little ditches. And Mike gets all excited, and he's waving his hands at me, and he's like really like freaking out, and he's pointing on the ground. He's like, alligator, and he's mouthing to me, alligator. 6 feet. And I was like, I'm not going to go over there and see a 6-foot alligator. What I didn't realize was the alligator was 6 feet from him.
No. A little bigger than 6 feet, but only 6 feet away.
Yeah. So it is kind of funny, it's like guys from the South come up here and, they might encounter a bear. I suppose it's the same, when we go down there and encounter a snake or an alligator, it's no big deal to them, but it's like, wow, holy smokes.
Well, in Georgia, there's a lot of bears down there too. We saw 2 bears in all our trips down there, which is, there's a lot of bears down there, which is kind of cool. But it is funny how, like you said, because here in Michigan, we only have one poisonous snake here in the whole state, and I've never ever seen it. I don't even think it's in my area up here. It's called a Masaka rattler, and it's just a little snake, and it's usually down in the southern Michigan parks. Every year somebody will see one in a nature preserve or something, but very rare. But down there, when I'm down there, you got cottonmouths, you got copperheads everywhere, you got rattlesnakes, and I'm wearing snake boots the whole time I'm down there without fail.
And a cup.
Then, you what? And a cup.
Yeah, and a cup,
man. Yeah, because it makes you nervous. Like I said, I look at my buddy. I'm down there. I was down there with Phil Johnson. We were in South Carolina hunting hogs. And he's a lot taller than I am, and we're standing in a swamp, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, the water is literally above my knee. It's like mid-thigh on me, and it's like knee-deep on him. I'm like, okay, any snake that comes by can literally snap me right in the junk without even trying, and he's going to swim right between your legs and not bother you. I'm like, this is bad.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, we have rattlesnakes in Idaho, and I used to, when I was much younger, when I was guiding down the Frank Church, we'd run into them, and it really, I don't remember it bothering me. And of course, a lot of times I was on horseback, but I remember killing them and eating them. But I think it was last year when we were backpacking in the Frank Church, I ran into a snake that was on the uphill side, and it was kind of a bad deal. Could have been a bad deal. And
right.
I absolutely prolapsed, man. I just fell apart. All my way, I had like 65 pounds on my back, and I'm chugging up this hill, and all of a sudden on the uphill side, this rattlesnake goes and I dropped the F-bomb. I'm pretty sure like 15 times in 3 seconds. I mean, I just, wow.
Right.
It's like all of my momentum's going forward. And I'm like, just calm down, Snake, because I'm trying to back up.
Yep. Yep.
You
I
know,
was, they had a down there in Texas hunt. I don't remember whose hunt it was, but Steve Teray, guy who builds Northern Miss longbows, he was down there. And I was talking to him, and he said he's, you know, because he lives down there in Alabama. So he deals with snakes all the time. Never has a worry. You know, he kills these cottonmouths constantly, even in his yard, you know, that kind of thing. But he was down there in Texas, and he shot a deer, and he was looking back in that deer. He was on his hands and knees and was going under some of that scrub brush. And he had to duck down, even on his hands and knees. He had to get down and almost belly crawl through there. He came face to face with a rattlesnake. And he said it was like, you know, it couldn't have been 2 feet away from him. He said it took him probably 2 or 3 minutes to actually slowly back himself out of there without moving. And he got out and killed that snake. And he had a picture of it and stuff. I think that snake had to be 9 feet long. You know, it was insane.
Holy smokes, man. That's keeping your crap together. Yeah.
Right.
Holy.
That's what he said. He's like, you know, I had no choice. You know, I realized how dire of a situation it is. I am literally laying on my belly, and he is right there staring at me and rattling away, and he is already cocked and locked. And it's like, oh my gosh. So he's like, I took as long as I could, just back myself out of there. And then once I got out, I killed that dude, you know? Oh. Yep. Yeah. But these guys come up here and they come, you know, now not Steve, but a lot of guys, like you said, that aren't used to the bears. I get people asking me all the time, hey, I want to come up north and go deer hunting. I live down here by Detroit area. We're going to make a trip up north this fall, but I'm worried about the bears. What kind of gun do I need to carry? Like for black bears? You know, I mean, I chase them out of my yard, my underwear, you know, all summer long, you know, but to them, they're a scary thing, you know? So yeah, it's funny how everything changes.
Yeah, it's all perspective. It's all perspective for sure. What, you know, what you're used to.
Yep.
Yeah. So since I hit record and we had already had like 15 minutes of really good discussion, I'm super intrigued by the Whitetail course that you have. Tell me a little bit about that, how you find it and what it entails.
It's to find it, you just Google Traditional Bowhunting and Wilderness Podcast. I'll pop up, or the actual website is tbwpodcast.com. And on there, you'll find a hunting course. You'll find all the courses are right there. And what it is it's, you know, it's a online video course. So think of like DVDs and things of that nature, but imagine it with this setup, it's all right there for you. You can watch it on your TV, your computer, your phone, whatever you want. It's all chapter categorized. And what's nice is you can go back. So let's say that you're actually sitting in a tree stand, and, you know, it's really hot today and you're not having any action. The reason I say this is because last year a guy did this right while he ended up killing a 9.1 because of this, and he did it in stand, but he was telling me about it. But so he's sitting there in a stand. It's like 85 degrees when it should be in the 50s, and he's not seeing any action. He pulled up my course, went to that chapter on that stuff and what to do with some of that, you know, hot weather hunting and some tactics for that. And then he watched that video, went and applied that tactic for the afternoon and killed a 9-point that way, you know? So it's chapter categorized, so you can always go back to it and find exactly what you're looking for. But it's like, it's over 20 hours long, and it is just everything I could ever teach you about hunting whitetails on a very serious level. Takes it from beginner all the way through. I had scouting videos before that. I made a scouting video about 7 years ago that was a full year of scouting through every single season of everything and showed you how to do that. And I made that set of DVDs and sold it. Then I wished I had more stuff in it, so I made a second set, a part 2 of that, which was another 4-hour double DVD set that I was selling. And then I wanted even more, so I thought instead of making more DVDs, I was going to start this course. I learned how to do it from some of the other courses I had taken online to learn how to sell on Amazon and market on YouTube and do things. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to make my own course, since the courses I've taken have been so valuable for me. And so I built this Bowhunting Whitetails course. And what's nice about it is once you spend the $75 and get it, you have access to all the 20 plus hours of video content that's already in there, but I constantly add new videos to it as well. And you get all those already for free too. So I don't have to keep making and selling DVDs to keep updating things for you. I just go in and update the course, and there's a folder in there that says new content update list, and it shows you, it'll say on 6/18/2020, new video called so-and-so added to chapter 15. So you can see what's been on since the last time you were there, what's been added, and new stuff is added on there pretty regularly. So it's kind of one-stop shopping, and it's helped so many people. Like I said, I think there's over 1,000 people in there right now, including some very big name people. Some huge name hunters are in there. It blows my mind that they're even in my course, but they are, and they're actually enjoying it, and they're learning stuff from it. Pretty humbling to get an email from some of these guys and them tell me that, they learned something in that course, that they were a tactic that they never thought about trying. So it's pretty cool from that aspect. But I get every fall, I'm getting, almost 100 of them every fall of emails and phone calls from people and text messages saying, hey, this course helped me so much. Look at this deer I killed. Look at I did, or this tactic led me into here and I had the best season ever. And, all these things. And it's just real pure power. I'm very proud of it. And it is one-stop shopping, the most in detail whitetail hunting education you could ever get in one spot. Nothing else out there like it exists. It is just, it's a game changer. It really is. And now courses are becoming a lot more popular too. Like I said, you got the Push out there with their amazing, their courses on how to shoot bows and all the people they have in, and, they got Tom Clum's in there, and Joel Turner's got hit. There's a lot of great things out there for that stuff. But as far as bow hunting education stuff for that on how to hunt deer, I don't think there's any other ones out there like it. And it is pretty powerful course with everything you need right in one spot.
First off, it is amazing, truly amazing, the amount of information, whether it's shooting or hunting. I mean, this whole digital world we have now is incredible. You just named off a few. Yeah, it's insane. But so as far as deer hunting, are we talking agriculture or agricultural or big woods, mountains? What are you talking there?
I don't hunt anything agricultural, and I don't hunt anything private anymore. Now, I do have some sections in there, because I have hunted private before when I first started hunting Missouri 20 years ago. And then when I hunted Illinois a few times, 20, 15 years ago, I was on some private land. I didn't lease them, but an outfitter would lease them, and then I would go spend a week with that guy, and they were not guided. It was, here's the property, here's your 600-acre farm, hunt it, hang it, do whatever you want with it. That kind of hunts. But so I do have some stuff on there from private land hunting, but 99% of what I do, actually now 100% of it, is all public, and it's all big woods, or it's hills, or it's bluff country. So I in the big woods here in Michigan where I hunt is very flat, very swampy, with you got a good mixture of everything. A lot of deciduous woods, a lot of oak flats, and then you got a lot of swamp and bog and tamaracks and stuff like that here. Few little bits of cattails and some, that kind of thing. And then when I do my out-of-state hunts, because I hunt Michigan here at home, I also usually hunt Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Georgia, and occasionally Illinois if I can swing it, and sometimes Indiana. But all those places are all public land as well too. And when I'm in Kansas and Missouri, that's some pretty serious hill country where I'm at there. So it teaches you how to deal with the things you guys are dealing with out west, like thermals, and how water affects thermals, and how the sunlight affects them, and how the deer use them, and the third lines, and where they'll bed at during the day, where they'll bed, how they use points and fingers, and and saddles and all that sort of stuff. So it's a perfect mix for anybody. But as far as agricultural stuff, like I said, I got a few things in them, but that stuff is so easy. Hunting deer on private land is, I'm not knocking anybody that does it, but if you learn how to hunt them on public land, hunting them on private land is literally almost like shooting them in a barrel. It's so easy with because of the terrain diversity in urban and farm and agricultural areas. You got such obvious funnels and pinch points and hubs and fingers and spurs and all the things that you need right there to channel deer movement. It's easy. When you get into the big woods and into hills where it's all big woods, no agriculture, and it's hills and, or it's swamps, you don't have any of those, and everything is on a much more niche level, much more microscopic, smaller level for your transitions and your pinches and things like that. So when you can learn to identify and hunt those, like I said, private land, agricultural stuff, that's a walk in the park easy.
So big names. I don't imagine you're going to name drop.
No, I'm not gonna. But it is. There are some very cool people in there. It is pretty neat. Like I said, when I see their email come in that they registered for it, it kind of blows your mind. It's like, no way, I can't believe that.
So I'm gonna guess Barry Wenzel. Like Jason Samkowiak taught Barry Wenzel everything he knows.
Actually, I would like to say yes, but nope. He is not in that course. And but I have, honestly though, I think I have every book, every video, every DVD, everything that they have ever put out. And I'll tell you what, when either of the Wenzels talk, when they talk, I listen without fail every single time. Those guys are just as good as it gets. But also, and like them, just like they're, it's the same kind of concept. They have devoted their entire lives to not only being, obviously they're big time whitetail killers. I mean, they're machines at it, but they are devoted their lives to teaching other people how to do it, without holding back, letting these people in, teaching them what to do. And that's kind of been my whole motivation with everything, with my podcast, with the DVDs, with the videos. It's, with the course, it's, it's nice to give back to people and teach them, what I can, how I can, and, and like I said, some of these bigger name people, I'm sure they already know way more than I do. They're just looking at going, hey, you know what? It supports them a little bit. I can also maybe pick something up or look at it from a different standpoint. I'm imagining that's the reason for it, not that they're going to, take notes and learn the whole thing, but they can probably pick up a little variation on something, because it's nice. I never had a father that hunted. I never had anybody teach me anything. 100% self-taught, which means I got to make my own rules as I go. And there's a lot of rules out there that people say, oh, a deer will never do this, or deer never do this, or deer always do this. I'm going, yeah, you know what? I don't really agree with you, because I see them do the exact opposite many times. And it's things that I learned through trial and error, rather than somebody just tell me, don't do this. Because when they tell you don't do this, you go, okay, and you never do it. Well, if nobody told you that, you do it anyway, and you learn that it may not work 100% of the time, but you know what? There's that 20% of the time it does. And in dire situations, sometimes that 20% is a pretty good number, and it might really pan out for you,
You hit it out of the park there, mentioning how much that the Wenzels have given back. And there is there's a long list of guys, that that age, that generation, that did so much, and it wasn't about fame and fortune. It was like, hey, this really works. This is awesome. This is what you do. I'm not so sure. Yeah, that's just super cool. You're right. Those guys are awesome to boot.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. Asbel, Don Thomas, even TJ with the, starting a magazine up and, devoting a lifetime to try and, help teach people. That's what that magazine was based on, was trying to teach people how to do this and give them stories. And, Warren Womack, he's down in, he's down there in Louisiana. And I think, the guy is in his 80s. He's about 80 years old, and he is still climbing and hunting out of a saddle. And the guy's killed like 500 deer with a traditional bow. It's insane. I mean, I'm exaggerating slightly. I think it's 300 and something with a traditional bow and 100 or something with a rifle. But I mean, he's just and he's put out amazing articles, 25 years ago that were tactics that were unheard of then, that people now, everybody's using. But back then, this was all self-taught. Back before internet was popular, before any of this stuff was out there, these guys were giving it all to help teach people whatever they could. And, I have huge respect for anybody that does that. And today there's a lot of them too. I honestly believe that the majority of the podcasts that are out there, the majority of people that have YouTube channels, they want to genuinely help people and try and make it better, offer a little entertainment, keep them, get through the times when they're not in the wood, kind of like a virtual campfire, so they're still talking and hearing hunting stuff. I think the amount of information out there today is amazing, and my hat's off to like you and to everybody that does it and devotes the time and energy to help get information out to people and sharing that. It doesn't get better than that. It's a tradition that's been around since the beginning of time, that in a day and age where nobody helps anybody anymore and it's all me, and what can you do for me, to have a group of people in this industry that are always giving back and trying to help others, that's pretty incredible.
You know, you draw. This is awesome, Jason. I really didn't know where this was going to go, but speaking of this podcast, I really thought when I started this, maybe like 150, 200, 300 people might listen, and we're just going to tell hunting stories. And so many people, you know, over the last couple of years, you know, like, hey, you know, you've inspired me to do this, you inspired me to do that. There is, well, I said it earlier, I mean, there is so much information, so much good information, be it hunting or shooting. This digital media is pretty incredible. How did you get started? How'd you get started in the outdoors? How'd you get started bow hunting? How'd you get started traditional bow hunting?
Well, hunting wise, I started hunting. I got a compound bow when I was 12 years old. My parents were divorced. My mom had, started dating a guy that he was a big time trapper. And so my first experience with anything was out trapping. He took me out trapping with him a few times, taught me how to set some muskrat sets and things like that. And I had a lot of fun, caught some beaver, a couple otters. I did some neat things, and he was one of those guys that was, I'm going to tell you what to do, and then you better be hearing me because I'm not going to show you again. So do it right. And so first couple of times I screwed up, and he basically, no, I'm not telling you again. I explained it to you. Now you figure it out. And I did pretty good that time and had a good time. But my first hunting experience was with him, and he basically said, hey, and this obviously now I know it wasn't legal, but then we didn't. I didn't know, but he's like, hey, I got a bear tag and I got a bear stand set up with a bear bait. I'm going to go put you in there and leave you out there for the night, see how you do. I was 12 years old. He handed me a double barrel 10 gauge. Thing weighed more than I did. Never shot it before in my life, And he stakes me out and he sticks me in this permanent wooden built blind. It's basically a platform in a tree with some old rotten wood ladders going up to it. And he set me up out there and he left me out there, and then it got dark and I never saw nothing, but I was freaking out. And finally he came in here, picked me up about 2 hours after dark.
Holy smokes.
He's like, sorry, I got held up there in a meeting. I was like, oh God, he's a contractor, but anyway, so he came and got me, and that was my first ever experience hunting. But I really did enjoy it, and I was excited so much that a bear might come in. And at 12 years old, I was scared to half to death, but excited at the same time. And from there, I was kind of hooked. And so that Christmas, my mom bought me a compound bow, and I went out. We lived up here in northern Michigan, and we had lots of public land. And I remember there was an old logging road across the street from us that went back into the woods. And I walked down there one time in October, and there were 3 deer out there. I want to say because there were 3 does standing there. I knocked an arrow, snuck up as close as I thought I needed to be, drew back, shot, and my arrow hit the ground about 50 yards ahead of me, and those deer were only about 60 yards further than that. So it's not.
It was a par 3.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so that was it. And then after, but I never killed anything. But I mean, I remember I went out there. I didn't know anything about tree stands, but I climbed up on a couple branches and sat up there for what I thought was the whole evening, but it was probably about 15 minutes before my legs would cramp. I had fun with it for that year. And then came, cars and girls in high school, and I got out of it. And then I moved downstate for my last half of my senior year of high school, and there was no woods down there, no hunting options, and I missed it. So as soon as I graduated high school, I bought another bow, and this was in the time of overdraws now. Okay. This is the early 90s. So I had the Golden Eagle, I bought a Golden Eagle, and it was a great bow. I shot it for, a month before the season every single day. On the third day of hunting season, I was sitting on the ground, Indian style, with my back against the tree in an area that I saw a lot of deer tracks. And all of a sudden, 3 deer come in behind me. 3 does are standing there at like 18 yards. but they're behind me. I'm sitting Indian style on the ground with my bow laying next to me facing the opposite way. Well, I saw them. I turned around. I actually stood up, turned around, bent down, picked my bow up, drew it back, locked on, and shot those deer. And she was a suicidal deer. She just stood there the whole time and let me do it, and I hard shot that doe and killed her. I had to wave somebody down on a dirt road to have him show me how to gut it, because I didn't know anything about it. And that was my first time hunting. And then I wanted bigger, better, and faster bows. So right after I killed that deer, third day of the season, I bought one of these Browning ballistic Mirages with the overdraw and 24-inch arrows and all this fancy crap. And it broke the limb twice on me. It was just all kinds of problems. And I got so fed up. I said, I was in Gander Mountain and I saw a recurve sitting there on the wall, and I was shooting a compound right-handed. Even though I'm left-handed, I just shot that way. And I picked up that recurve. He strung it for me, and I shot a couple arrows out of it, and I fell in love instantly. And he told me, he said, wait, but you're left-handed. He did an eye dominant test for me. And he said, hey, you're left eye dominant. If you're going to be shooting a traditional bow, you're going to probably want to go left-handed. So I said, all right. So I ordered one. Took 2 weeks for it to get there, and it showed up. And I still have that bow hanging in my closet today. And that was what started it. And then I just, gave it everything I had. Took me, I went 3 years. We were talking earlier. I don't know if it was on this one or the part that before you hit the record button.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Sure. But I had, we were talking about how you got to get that out of your system. You should be shooting at animals, and I shot over the back of 12 deer in my first 3 years of hunting with a recurve before I actually connected on one. Was on my third year hunting with a traditional bow that I actually killed a deer. And then from then on, I don't think I've ever had a year where I've killed less than 3 or 4. But it took a little bit to get that, to get my legs under me from shooting from a tree stand. And I just kept shooting over top of every one of them. And, but that was it. I was hooked. So I killed my first deer in 96 with a traditional bow. And I never touched a compound after that ballistic Mirage, which I had. So I had that Golden Eagle for 1 month, killed a deer, sold that bow, bought the Browning ballistic Mirage, had that for a month and a half. That one kept falling apart on me, so I sold that one. And actually, I don't think I sold that. I think I just scrapped it. I honestly believe that I gave it away or threw it out, and I don't remember which one. And then but as soon as I got that Martin Mama recurve, I was hooked forever there. And then I shot all kinds of recurves for a while. And then when John Tucker from Tactics Saddle, who was my best friend for all these years, still is, he built his house in, I don't know, 90 something. I want to say it was 97 or something like that. I don't know exactly, but he was building a house and doing most of it himself. And I was over there helping him a lot. So as a gift to say thank you, he had Jim Reynolds build me a Reynolds #1 longbow, and he gave it to me as a gift to say thank you for working on the house. And we went up to Royal Oak Archers here in Michigan, and I took that longbow and I put that target out there at 10 yards in front of me, and I shot that longbow. And man, I never shot so good in my life. I mean, it was just incredible, and I loved it, and I was hooked. And since then, I never owned a recurve. I've always shot a longbow since, and it's just kind of, what it ended up being. But that's, weird how it all came together for sure.
Well, you and I talked on the phone last week or something, and you mentioned the excitement when you're a kid, right? You're 12 and 13 years old. You're in the woods and you're exploring. Everything's new, and it's just, it's just so much fun. And when we were talking about a week ago or so, and I had mentioned, slipping around the swamp. And I knew there was a bear that had been feeding in that swamp, and I'm sneaking around the swamp, and it dawns on me. Here I am, in my early 50s, and I am so excited to be still hunting a swamp where there may or may not be a bear, but it was like being a kid, right? So as hunters, as bow hunters, that adrenaline rush, it's not about the 300-inch bull, it's not about the 180 buck. It's just the excitement of being in the woods and sneaking around. It's just so addictive, and I feel so fortunate to still be excited about it.
Yeah, it's the rabbit holes that matter, and when they stop mattering, it's time to get out of the sport. And I say it a lot, but what I mean by it is when we're in the woods, I end up, every rabbit hole grabs my attention, and they're not actually rabbit holes, but let's say that you got your stand on your back and everything is good. You're on your way to the wood or to a stand, And then you look over and there's a chipmunk sitting there and he's on a stump and he's standing there eating nuts, staring at you. I'm the kind of guy that will stop what I'm doing and I'm going to try and get as close to him as I can. I'm talking to him, trying to put my fingers there, hoping to get him to come over into my hand. But he has my attention. He is part of nature. He will stop me in my tracks from whatever I'm doing. And make me stop and do that. Or walking through there and all of a sudden you hear a woodpecker and I got to stop and look for him and pull out my binoculars and sit there and watch him and just pay attention to how he actually can seek these grubs out and then pull them out of the tree and do this. Or you walk by and then you probably see this where you are a lot, but all of a sudden I see a dead tree over there and it's ripped to shreds. I have to go over there. I have to lay my hand in that bear where those bear paws have ripped that apart and see my hand versus the size of that bear and imagine the power he had. And I got to try and pull a chunk off of it to see if I can do it at all and then realize the absolute insane power that they have to be able to do that. It's all these little things, these rabbit holes in every adventure in the woods that make it worth it. If you're going out there because you got to put a Facebook picture up with you and 300 inches of antler, you are in it for the wrong reason. The rabbit holes of the whole process are where all of the excitement and adventure are. And when you lose that, like I said, it's time to take up golf. It's not about killing animals. It's about everything all along the way. And it is literally stopping and smelling the roses and asking the how and why to everything, and eating things. I'm addicted to eating wild stuff. And I used to have books and things like that. Now I just try and eat one of it. And then if it goes good later on, I know I can eat it again. Sometimes it works out about 30% of the time in my favor,
That's not a good plan, man.
Yeah, no, it's really not. But I'm like, hey, this looks like Indian cucumber. It's not Indian cucumber. Okay, whatever it was, I'm telling you, it's not. What it is basically like Imodium. It is a laxative. It will definitely solve your problem for you. Yeah.
You mentioned that. I grew up. I didn't grow up in a hunting family. I don't know what was in my DNA, but I was in the woods from the time I was, 7 or 8. I just couldn't get me out of the woods. I was roaming the hills, and I grew up in a really, really cool place. I had tons of country to explore. So when I moved out west, everything I was a geek, right? Because everything was just different. And I was working on a ranch, feeding cows in the springtime, and we had 17 range bulls that they drive down on this ranch for the winter. And in the springtime, I was feeding them, and I would just be by myself kicking out, hay to these bulls, and they're range bulls. They're bad dudes, and I could smell garlic every day. I would go out there, and it would just their breath was overpowering. So I asked the boss there, the ranch owner, one day. I'm like, "Who the hell stinks up there?" And he's like, "Well, it's wild onions." I mean, there's so much cool stuff in this world, like you don't know. So I started digging, I think it was camas or something, and cooking it. There's just so many little interesting things out there.
Yeah, and so many of them, especially the food stuff, is good. We eat a lot of cattail. We make them into pancakes. We do the roots up, and we eat a lot of that stuff. We drink a lot of sumac lemonade. We eat a lot of dandelion lettuce, and we do a lot of that kind of stuff. What a lot of people, good thing we don't live in a subdivision, because if they saw my yard, they'd probably want to come in and weed whack it, But it's a lot of good stuff. It's funny. About 3 weeks ago, I was actually, and they were freaking out because it was coronavirus, but I was like, I don't feel good. I never ran a fever, but I had a day and a half where I was just down and out and not feeling good, sniffling and that kind of stuff. And I remember I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go sit in a tub and just set my laptop. I got a board that goes across my bathtub so I can actually work in there while I'm chilling. And I was in there and I was actually scouting and looking at cyber spots on there. And my daughter brings me in and she hands me this coffee cup. And I'm like, "What's this?" She's like, "It'll make you feel better." I took a sip of it. And I looked up at her. She smiled. I said, "No kidding." She actually went out in the yard, got pine needles, she steeped them and made me pine needle tea because she knew it was so low. It was just such a high concentration of vitamin C. But, here she is, 17 years old, and her dad's sick. She goes out in the yard, gets pine needles, and makes me pine needle tea. It does. And it's one of the best things you could ever have. But, it's just, those are skills and things that are just, are priceless. And as a dad, I felt pretty dang incredible, knowing that my daughter knows this stuff,
It's cool. Now back to train up here. pancakes. Explain this. What kind of pancakes do you say?
Well, cattails. We take the roots from cattails, so you can eat a cattail like 17 different ways. But we basically, like, I use them as snacks a lot when I'm in the swamp. I eat them all the time. But you basically, the green and white, or the white part of the stem down at the bottom, you eat it like celery. I just eat it raw. It's like a nice trail. Yeah.
Not under water line.
No, I eat them under water line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not, drinking the water through. I'm not drinking the water through them, but I do eat them under water line.
So you're pulling them up, and you're pulling out the whole plant, roots and all.
Yeah. So what I do is I'm yanking the whole root out, and then I'm saving the root. Okay. The root is actually what we're going to dry and ground up later, and then turn it. You reuse it like a pancake mix. So we do that. But once I cut that root off, the stem itself for about the first 8 inches tastes very much like a celery. So you just peel off the outer layer and you just chew on the inner layer and you eat it just like a celery. It's really good.
Interesting. You wash it or?
Nah, well, in the swamp.
Yeah.
It came out of the water. It's already raw.
Yeah.
Yep. But swamp, I've never had. It's not like I'm drinking a ton of that water, but yeah, no, I've never had a problem with it. But, and then the root ball, those balls of roots, the tubers is what they're called.
Yeah.
You dry those. We just lay them out, dry them out. Once they dry, we just pummel them with a rock and break them down. And then we just turn them into pancake mix.
Interesting. I'm not that deep.
Yeah. We need a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. I'm not that deep into it. But that's interesting. Everybody talks about fiddleheads. I'm like, picking morel mushrooms is about my extent. I know what a morel mushroom looks like.
Yeah, my wife wants to. I do not like mushrooms. Now, I've never had a morel, and they say it doesn't actually taste like a mushroom. But I've never really liked mushrooms, but she always wanted to. And that's one thing I've actually never done. And in one of these days, I'll have to have somebody show me how to. My wife would like to, but I don't know and haven't messed with. But we do a lot of them. But sumac, I'll tell you, my 2 favorite things from the woods or 3 favorite things would be dandelions. I love the leaves of dandelions. They're absolutely fantastic. I eat them as a trail snack raw, and we put them in our salads and things like that, and they're fantastic. And then pine needle tea is one. It is the ultimate cold remedy. You want the long needles like you guys have, like the white pine, the ones that have the long 5 needles.
I'll try this. I'll try this. So you're talking white pine, take the green needles and steep them. Yeah.
So you take a coffee cup and, that's all you do is take a coffee cup or a pot or whatever you want, put water in it and throw in, 10 or 12 needles or 15 needles, depending on how, just put some needles in it. And then just let it get nice and warm, pull the needles out and drink it. And it is basically pure 100% concentrated vitamin C. And it is just amazing. It's actually funny because what was the name of that family, the Dahmers, or who was that family that tried to cross over the Rockies and ended up dying from scurvy and, from that stuff?
The Donner Party. Yeah.
Yeah. And they died by lack of vitamin C while they were sleeping on pine needle.
Oh.
They were actually sleeping on the biggest source of vitamin C, and they didn't even know it, and they died from lack of vitamin C.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
I got
So pine needle tea is a good one. Yeah, and you want the ones, now technically you can use any spruce or anything like that, but the one that's actually the best and has the most vitamin C is the one that, your long needles, 4 or 5 needles per head, regular pine trees, not the little spruce Christmas tree kind of things.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think lodgepole is 5 needle, or maybe white pine's 5 needle and lodgepole 3 needle. But I'll check that out.
Yeah, as long as it's long needle, that's what you want. You don't want the little Christmas tree short ones. They're good, but they got a lot of tannicness to them. The long pine needles are the best ones.
Yeah, and then the dandelions, I got plenty of those. You just picking the leaves and chewing on them?
Yeah, you can eat any part of it. You can even eat the heads. The heads are fine. Actually, we use them on a salad. Sometimes if the heads are nice and yellow, we'll eat those as well too. But yeah, you can eat any part of it. The whole dandelion is 100% edible, but the best part are the leaves. Just walk out there, pull a leaf off a dandelion and eat it. And it's just got a lot of flavor. really good for you. I don't think you guys got wintergreen out there. We eat a lot of wintergreen here too. Sweet fern. There's a lot of stuff out there that's just really good for you. That's fantastic. But pine needle tea is my favorite. Cattails, we eat a ton of those. They're just, I'm out there scouting in this stuff. Blueberries in the fall. Most people cannot stand scouting in August and September because of the heat, and then September is close to hunting season, so they don't want to be out there. Well, I make a point to be out there scouting in August and September, but I'm not scouting for places I'm going to hunt this year. I already know where those are or have ideas. I'm actually just getting a jump start on places I might want to scout next year, or in the spring after the season's over. But it lets me get out there and pick. I eat so many wild blueberries, and then the cattails and stuff too. If I'm in there in the marsh, I'm pulling cattails. I get hungry when I'm on a wake. I don't have to bring trail mix or nothing. It's all right there for you.
Dang. Well, as far as the dandelions go, I'm gonna have to find the ones the dog isn't peeing on. But try.
Right. Yeah, well, when they pee on it, it turns into ammonia about 24 hours later or 12 hours, something like that. All urine turns basically into ammonia. So all he's really doing is cleaning it for you. So, if you wait 12 hours, it's been basically sanitized and you're ready to eat it.
Oh, man. You're full of knowledge. Jason.
Yeah, it's all part of the game. Yeah, but sumac tea is another one. I don't know if you guys have the sumac trees out there where they got the big red, look like almost big red pine cones on them in the summertime. But that sumac, we take those pine cones, and especially after they got a heavy rain when they're full, you take those and you put them right in a T-shirt, and you just, pour water over them and let it steep through the T-shirt, and it is literally the same thing as pink lemonade, which is pure vitamins. It's amazing.
Really? Dang.
Yeah.
Well, this is the most.
So we do a lot of that stuff. It's good.
That's the most diverse podcast I've done yet. But I guess with all that, you're not a mushroom guy. I guess that surprises me.
Yeah, I just my wife says I am the pickiest eater in the world. I mean, I have a pretty limited palate for a lot of things, and if I have my way, every single day my plate will somehow have a steak and a potato on it as the main courses. I'm pretty, so it's just weird. But they say morels taste a lot more like steak than other mushrooms do. So from what I hear, so I may try one day, but yeah, never liked mushrooms, just mushrooms in general. Just never cared for them much.
Yeah. A lot of people, the way they cook morels, you just barely, everybody sautés them in butter and puts all this garlic or whatever on it. But the morel is actually very flavorful. Yeah, you should try them. They're fun, and they're fun to look for. It's kind of a hunting deal out here anyways.
Yeah, it is here too. I know there's people that they're worse than bass fishermen. I mean, they will not give you their spot. They don't, they hide. It's funny the stuff they do to try and avoid it. You'll come across them in the woods. I'll be out there scouting, and I'll see somebody, and I'm watching him. He doesn't even know I'm coming, and I know what he's doing. And I'll walk up, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, he's like, "Good, good." He's, like I just caught him with his pants down, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Looking for rocks. We're using rocks around our fire pit, trying to find rocks." Like, wow, rocks out here next to the edge of the swamp. Yep, good luck. They're pretty secretive about that stuff.
That's funny. So, what kind of bows you shooting these days?
I have been shooting Northern Mist longbows for the last, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years. He builds a really nice bow. I really like it. I had shot the Reynolds bows. I'm one of those guys that likes, I am a 2-bow guy, meaning that I buy a bow, and if I like it a lot, I have a clone made. Exactly the same, maybe different woods, but same weight, same draw, same everything, same length, so that my arrows, I only have to have one set of arrows. And so I use those 2 clone bows, and that's pretty much all I use. And I had, when John, when I helped him build that house, and he bought me that Reynolds bow, that longbow, I fell in love with it. And 2 weeks after he gave it to me, I ordered another identical one from Jim Reynolds. So I had 2 of those. I shot those for about 6 or 7 years. And then I bought a Robertson longbow, and I liked that a lot. And I had him make me another one. So I had 2 of those. I shot those for, 6, 7 years. And then I wanted a new bow, and I wanted to buy from somebody local here in Michigan. And I happened to run across one of Steve's bow at Jay's Sporting Goods, a little store here in Northern Michigan. It was used. And it was there, and I looked it over. It was right-handed, so it wouldn't work for me, but I looked the bow over, And I was just shocked, completely blown away by the build quality, the fit and finish, just the lines of it and how well the knocks were done and even everything was and symmetrical. You didn't have one knock, file groove, one way and one off by, another quarter inch the other way. Everything about this bow was just spot on, flawless. I said, man, so I looked him up, saw who he was, saw he was here in Michigan, and I called him up and ordered a bow. And when that bow got here, I straight up fell in love with it. So I ordered another one of those. And then I love that. Then when he actually came to deer camp with me up in Missouri, and he shoots these hill style bows. And I was like, I'm kind of interested in one of them. And he said, well, let me make you one. And so he built me one, and I fell in love with that. So now that's all I shoot. I got 2 of those. That's what I've been shooting for the last 3 years. I got a third one on order, just because I wanted to buy another one. But they're all 3 they're always all clones. So like I said, I don't use a lot of different bows. I basically hunt with 2 bows, and I switch it up. One year I use one, the next year I use the next one. The next year I go back to the first one and just rotate them each year is my main bow, and then the other one comes as a backup bow. So that way they're both getting used for, constantly. And, but they're exactly the same. I've been shooting one arrow for the last 7 or 8 years. I have not had to change anything. It just always works with whatever bow I have.
And whose bows were those?
This is Northern Mist longbows made by Steve Terray. Yeah, he was in Michigan when I met him, and then 4 years ago he moved down to Alabama, and he's down in Alabama now. And but he builds all my bows. I straight up love him. I mean, his stuff is he doesn't do recurves. All he does is longbows, and he builds some incredible ones. But and he's got a couple of mild R&D bows, no hybrids, couple of mild R&D bows, and but he's got a ton of different models of hill style bows, straight limbs. So I'm shooting a straight grip, straight limb, classic longbow is what I'm actually shooting.
Now, as far as you can't put a quiver on those, right? Because I do.
Yeah, I run a Great Northern quiver. Yep.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the whole limb works on that.
It does for the most part. I mean, I use I'm a short guy. I'm only 5'6", so, and with a 26-inch draw. So like my Great Northern quivers that I buy, I don't buy the adjustable model. I use their standard longbow. So it's a 1-piece metal bar, not the 2 bars that slide and adjust. So in the way I put it on there, mine are still on the fade outs, but they're, I would never try bare shaft or tuning my bow with the quiver off because I use it on. So there is a difference. So I definitely want to set up and shoot my bow all the time with a quiver on. If I take it off, you'd notice a difference in arrow flight. So you are correct. It is somehow still affecting things a little bit. But I tune my bows with the quiver on and set up that way, and I don't ever take it off.
What kind of arrows you shooting?
They are kind of a Frankenstein setup. I kind of have my own little invention there, but it's a gold tip 500 spine arrow, which is way under spine for what I shoot. But I cut them they're 27 inches long, 26-inch draw, 57-pound bow. But what I do is I take 2 of the brass inserts, 100-grain inserts. I take one of them on my grinder and I grind that lip off of it so that it'll go completely in the shaft. Well, I take the 2 of those, one regular brass insert, 100-grain, and another one that I cut the lip off. I flip one inside out and I put a nail between them in that little hole, and then I bend that nail over to hold them. So it's basically one 200-grain, 3 1/4 inch long insert. Then I put that into that shaft. And then I run a steel 100-grain broadhead adapter, and then I run 140-grain, the Magnus 1 original heads. So I got a 725-grain arrow with 450 grains up front. So it's kind of a very unique setup on there. But I've been running it for about the last, 6-7 years. And I kill a lot of animals, probably, 25, 30 animals with it. And it just blows right through everything. It doesn't even slow down. It's just gone right through them.
Yeah, just so you know, you can't kill anything with that. That's not possible.
Right. Yeah. Well, I get people all the time. I love it when these guys tell me constantly. They're like, that arrow's way under spine for your bow. It doesn't work. Like, really? Because, I'm the one shooting it, and they don't understand it. Even though I have a 27-inch arrow and it's 500 a 500 spine arrow with 450 up front, you're right, that would never work. But when I put a 3.5-inch insert in there, I got like 22 inches of flexible shaft here. Believe me, it works. They don't understand. I love that. I get that stuff a lot. I just had 2 guys on one of my YouTube videos I did on, why I don't hunt out of a saddle, and I talked about why you should and all the benefits of saddle hunting, but why I prefer a tree stand. And I said in there, with my setup, I can actually turn around and face and shoot towards where the tree is while I'm on a stand. I had 2 guys. You can never, ever do that with a longbow. I'm a traditional guy too, and there's no possible way you could ever kill a deer that way. Like, I love it when people tell me what I can and what I cannot do with a bow. It just blows your mind.
That is one of the cool things about traditional archery is like, you don't have I don't know. I mean, you don't have a lot of parameters. I don't tinker with my arrows as much as I used to, but in the wintertime and springtime, you're just messing with stuff. And it's just fun. And you might have said, how many pounds, what's your bow weight? You might've said, I missed it.
57 pounds, 57 at 26 inches of draw. Yeah. I've been kind of all over the boards. When my first Robertson recurve I had made, my first custom bow, that Martin Mamba recurve was 55 at 28. With that recurve, I was drawing 27, so about 51, 52 pounds. Then I went to a Brackenberry bow, which I wish I never would have sold because it was just, it's an iconic bow. But that one was 61 pounds. Then I went to a Robertson recurve, and that was 63. Then I went to a 77 Robertson, then to a 79-pound Robertson. The 79-pounder actually broke, just delaminated once. But I'll tell you, and it was you could tell it was actually a failure in like a glue failure, because it happened like literally, a few weeks after I got it. He obviously took incredible care of it, solved the whole problem for me. But it was, so it wasn't like a Boyer error. You could tell it was an error in with the glue, but back then too, we're talking in the late 90s here,
Sure.
But he made me new limbs, and that was 79, and that was the highest I went. And then I started going back down a little bit I went back to 74. And then that's when John bought me that longbow, and he got it for me 63 pounds. And I just loved it. So then I had both 2 longbows at 63. Both my Robertson longbows were 63. And then when I had Steve build that Baraga for me, I wanted to go down. So I went to 57. The second Baraga was 57. And now my 3 classic hill styles are also 57s. So that, I'm just, there's no need to shoot. The more I learned about arrows, the less I needed the bow weight. I'll tell you what, I blow through way more animals with a 57-pound straight limb hill style longbow, which is, not a speed demon by traditional standards today, especially with my 26-inch draw. With a 720 grain arrow and 26-inch draw, if I shoot at 20 yards and I'm on the ground and I don't like where that arrow's going, if I got my Nikes on, I can run down there and catch that arrow before it gets there.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. You mentioned,
but it's just that slow. It's not fast, but it blows through everything. And I'll tell you, when I was shooting 79-pound recurves and shooting, 500 or 600 grain arrows with not a lot of FOC, nothing wrong with any of those setups, but I was not getting the pass-through rate that I get now. The arrows, arrow setup, I think, is where it comes to. I think, I think there's a reason we see a trend now towards many people shooting 45 pounds, 40 pounds, 48 pounds, that 40 number. I think the reason that a lot of people are able to do that well is because of the technology in the arrow, even in the wood arrows, with the wood arrows and the way that they're footed, or the way, that the broadhead options. You remember as well as I do, back 15 years ago was, okay, do you want a 100 grain head or 125 grain head?
Oh, yeah.
Those were your only options. Now you got multitude of 175, 200, 250, 300. There's so many things that you can do to really get the arrows with the higher FOC, the great flight characteristics. People understand bear shaft tuning, and, the arrows are where I think the real matter is. You could get by. My daughter killed a almost 600-pound hog on a ranch. This was, she was 12 years old, so this was almost 6 years ago. But she killed a 500 and something, I don't remember, 570 or something on the scale, this pig was. And but she shot this thing with a pound compound drawn 23 inches with a custom built 400 grain arrow with 30% FOC and a Magnus 2-blade head on there. And she blew all the way through it. The arrow, when that pig, he shot that pig right behind his shoulder, that pig turned around, and when it turned, that arrow fell out. You know, it was unbelievable. Yeah. It, you know, like I said, 26 pound compound, you know? So, I mean, like I said, the arrows definitely are where, if that arrow's built right, tuned right, and set up right, you know, your bow poundage does not make a lot of difference, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of people still like Steve, you know, Steve Teray, the first year he hunted with me 5 years ago, he brought a 102 pound longbow with him, you know, is what he hunted with. Now I think he's down to like 86, but you know, there's a lot of people out there that love shooting heavy bows, and I'll never knock it or take anything away from them. And everybody I know shoots them really well. But there's becoming a lot of people that are real happy in that 40 pound range, so that they can shoot hundreds and hundreds of arrows a day. And, you know, and there is nothing wrong with that. And those bows will kill animals all day long. Just have the right arrow set up.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Martin Mamba. Back in the 90s, Martin was putting out some quality traditional bows. There's Super Diablo. They came out with the Dreamcatcher. I really didn't care that much for, but the Hunter, that was a great entry-level bow, that 62-inch bow. They put out some quality bows back then. Yep.
We still have a Hunter, and my wife's bow fishing bow. The first recurve I bought her was that it was a Super Diablo. Was the first bow I bought her as a traditional bow, and she still uses it today as a bow fishing bow. It's set up for bow fishing. That's what she uses. And I mean, there's a lot of, it's a lot different now. I mean, you got I haven't seen a Martin bow in a long time, so I don't even know what their quality is like now. I mean, I have never paid attention or looked at them. But I know Bear's always been really good. But you got a lot of entry ones that are coming out now that are pretty good quality. Like that, we have 3 or 4 of those Samick Sage bows here that I bought for the kids and for friends for coming over bow fishing, things like that. I'll tell you what, that little bow for $139, and then I could buy extra limbs for $50. It is a solid shooting, great little bow, and we've put them through the ringer, you know, bouncing them around in the bottom of aluminum boats and throwing them in the water. And, you know, I mean, they've been through hell and back, and they have just held up incredible. And they're solid little bows, $140.
Yeah, my boy's got a Samick Galaxy, and I really like the way that handle feels, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The grip, I think I'm going to ship that grip over to Blackwidow next time I have him make me a bow. But, you know, you touched on the arrow setups. Again, the amount of information we have today as opposed to what we had in the 90s and the 2000s, you know, about weight. I'm not a big EFOC guy, but just the knowledge of how, you know, the arrow flight, you know, and the quality broadheads we have today. You know, I go back to the the Satellite. I mean, I think a Satellite broadhead was a popular one. Yeah. Holy crap. I have Bic razors in the drawer over here that are thicker blades than those things were, you know, there was just so many gimmicky things. Today, their quality and the knowledge that we have at our fingertips is just amazing. And it's great.
You know, those Satellite broadheads. That's what I remember. I told you I took that 50-yard shot at that 100-yard deer.
Yeah.
Back in my first year I ever shot at. Well, I was using those Satellite broadheads, and it's funny because that was the first time I bought a Muzzy. It was after that because I was fed up with it. But so when I picked that arrow up, I found that arrow. Like I said, it arced so much it was sticking in the ground, you know. And I walked over there and got that arrow, and the blades were broke off of it. It was a Satellite head, you know, that orange, you know, furlue. Yep. And so when I went to put a new head on that arrow, you know, remember the arrow cases? They had the built-in broadhead wrench, the little star hole. Yep. You know, you could stick them in. So I put a new Satellite broadhead on. I stuck it in that broadhead wrench and turned it to tighten it. I snapped all 3 blades off of that one. And I went, you know what? I'm just straight up done with these. And that was when I bought a Muzzy broadhead, you know, from watching, I was watching Dan Fitzgerald hunting video on VHS. Yeah, and he had those Muzzies. He would say, "Muzzy, baby." You know, and I was like, well, look at that.
Well,
how it came about.
Yeah, I still have a couple of satellites out in my man cave there, just to have them around. They've been in that little case there forever, and they were the autumn orange was the feral color, and it matched the autumn orange arrows, Easton autumn orange. Oh,
Yeah, oh, that's right. I didn't even think about the Autumn Arrow XX. They were 7.7. They were 775s.
yep,
Or 70.75s, because then they came out to 70.78.
yep.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, they were, I mean, I went from, once I got into a traditional bow, I went right to a Bear Razorhead of the aluminum furlue version, just
Yep.
screw-ons. And I killed a lot of animals with those, and those were great. And then I went to the Magnus, but I have been shooting that Magnus the 1.5 inch wide version. I've been shooting those exclusively for about the last, 15, 18 years. And even when they discontinued them, I went and bought every single pack that there was. I think I have over 300 of those heads still in packages. And I love them, And now Jason over at Tough Hat is actually, he's got one coming out next year that's almost a clone of that, but in a thicker steel, about a 200 grain, 190 to 200 grain. We've been talking a lot about it. And, but it's going to be, it's a 1.5 wide. It's very similar to this broadhead I'm using, and I can't wait for it to come out. But now I'm kind of bummed that I spent all this money buying all these Magnus heads. But I'm not going to lie, I love I love the Magnus heads.
Now,
they're just incredible. They sharpen real easy and they fly perfect.
Yeah, is that the 2-blade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, my buddy John, he shoots the same one in a 4-blade. I think he's still got a few left, but it's funny because in the summertime, a lot of times, we'll make an 8-hour trip to go get a broadhead that we lost in the snow because they don't make them anymore. So he'll call up and he'll be like, "Hey, what do you got going on?" I'm like, just working. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about heading up the Indian River up there where we were. Remember that spot where I missed that doe and it was wintertime? I want that broadhead." I'm like, "All right, let's go."
Funny. That's funny. Let me ask you a question. This is always I've always scratched my head over this. Now, I remember when I started, and Bear Razorheads, the old, not the old Bear Razorheads, the stainless steel aluminum ferrule ones.
Yep, the blue ones.
Yes, the blue, and then they had the green. I think were 110 grain or something, or 100 grain.
Yep.
Wasn't it always that the bleeder was designed to break if it hit bone?
Yes, designed to snap off so that way it would not impede penetration through bone.
Exactly, and then I shot Magnus 4-blade for quite a while, and those blades were not designed to break. But I couldn't, I really did like the hole they made, but I couldn't get those bleeder blades to. The quality got to be where they just fall in and out of the slot, and then I was trying to have to hot glue them into the slot, and it just got to be a pain in the neck.
Yep.
For
and then they
reasons.
Also would rust out quick. The bleeders would rust fast, and I never really liked them. And then I had to glue over not even to glue them in, but when I shot them too, I would have to run a bead of Ferrule-Tite across, or Duco across. Once I put them in and mounted them, I'd have to glue the gap so that I wouldn't get any whistling sometimes. So I just said, forget it. And I went straight to the 2 blades, and I've never looked back. They've always worked great, but that's why I went from a Magnus 125, 1.25 wide with the bleeder blades to the 1.5 inch wide because I was like, I'm giving up the bleeder blades. I want the wider one. And I, like I said, still to this day, it's my favorite head. I take them as soon as I get them, I run them on my grinder and I round out the nose, get rid of the needle point and round it out, or actually kind of almost tonneau it a little bit, and just to make it a little stronger. And that's all I do to them, and then mount them up and sharpen them. But they sharpen real easy. They're that perfect level. Some broadheads are too soft. Some broadheads are too tough. For me, the Magnus is just spot on, easy to sharpen. I don't know if it's just because I used them so much, but I can get those things so razor sharp, scary sharp, and I can do it in like a minute per head. It works. I do it on. I set the main bevels right on my belt sander, and then I finish them by hand. And they're I know them well. I like them a lot.
I liked him. I liked him for what I did. I never was a 2-blade, a fan of 2-blade, but to each his own. I always liked an extra slot in the hide.
Yep, for sure. And then, when you get that 4-blade or 3-blade cut, it's nice having that one extra blade. I mean, there's, I mean, I run that risk on a high shot that if my blade, happens to pass through there on a, on a horizontal plane, I could actually end up, not catching the top of a lung or not catching an artery. The more blades you got, the more chance you're going to catch something and kill it, on those marginal hits. On a perfect hit, doesn't matter. But on a marginal hit, it matters. And that's the reason that I shoot the bigger, wider ones. Because again, going from a narrow head to a wider head on a marginal hit, that wider head might nick what I need it to nick,
Absolutely.
So I agree. Now, what I like about the 2 blades is I can fit them in there. I actually turn my Great Northern quiver. What quiver do you shoot? Do you shoot a Great Northern or no?
No, I've had Great Northerns. They're a great quiver. I shoot Selway now.
Yeah, Selways are awesome too. I for my Great Northern, they're all 5-arrow quivers, right?
Yeah.
Well, I turned my 5-arrow into a 6.5 quiver.
6.5.
It's pretty 6.5. So what I did is, because I use 2-blade broadheads, so I take the foam out. I've never been a fan of black foam in a quiver. Again, we're whitetail hunters here, so for us, we're on a tree stand until it's dark, and it's after dark. And then I take that arrow and I go to put it back in my quiver. Well, I can never see the hole in that black foam where my arrow goes. So I'd have to wait till I turn my headlight on. Well, so I changed the foam out many years ago to white foam. I would just get those white, Blue Ridge archery targets that were 3-inch thick compressed foam, the cheap ones you got for like $15 for kids, for kids to shoot arrows at. Well, I cut a chunk of that and then shape it, with just a kitchen butcher knife and then put that foam in there. I still do that to this day. And, but it's white foam, so I can see where that hole where my arrow goes is really easy, because the arrow hole gets dirty, from your tips and from your blades. And so it's real easy to see where it goes. Well, since I'm already doing that anyway and putting my own holes, I was able to bring my heads in tighter together. So on that Great Northern, with one piggybacker on the back right by the rubber gripper, the way their bar is shaped, an arrow holds tight right there and does not wobble left or right. It's pinched between the hood and the bar and held on with a piggybacker, and then the broadhead actually fits in the quiver. So they're 2 blades, I can fit it in there. So that gives me now a 6-arrow quiver, and then I still have room in that quiver for one more 2 blade. So I actually just take a sharpened 2-blade with my broadhead adapter, which are screw-ins in it, and I can stuff that right in there. So if I'm out hunting and I shoot and miss, which it doesn't ever happen. I don't think I've missed anything in many years, but if I were to actually miss something, kidding, but on the misses, if I need that arrow back or I want to, I can just grab that arrow and then I can take that and just twist off that head that's dulled out. Or, for example, what does happen to me many times a year is I drop the arrow out of the tree. Like I knock it off my arrow shelf and it goes down and it hits the ground. And then I climb down and I get that arrow. Well, I can spin that broadhead off, take that arrow and put the new broadhead that's in my quiver on it, and I'm good to go. And then just put the dulled out broadhead back in that spot. So my quivers are a 6.5-arrow quiver out of a Great Northern because I shoot 2 blades. I got the room inside the hood to work with it.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yep, that's it. And like I said, shooting a longbow, you definitely knock arrows off the shelf a lot. I actually solved that too, because I don't use a leather grip. When I have my bows made, I just tell Steve, don't even put a grip on it or a shelf. I'll do all that myself. And I use a rubber grip, just a rubber bicycle inner tube. And then in my vest pocket that I always wear, I have a bunch of like 1-inch long pieces of, zip tie, just black zip tie that I cut them with my cutters into like 1-inch little strips. I've got like 10 or 12 of them in my vest pocket. And when I get up on the stand and I get set, I will stick that zip tie between the bow grip and the bow itself. So it sticks up a little bit in front of the, next to the shelf, and it keeps the arrow from falling off. And then when I go to shoot, all I do is I take like my index finger on my bow hand and I just push that. I just reach up and I push that zip tie right down into the handle, so it's out of the way when I'm ready to shoot. If I don't get the shot, then I just take my other hand and I just roll the rubber down a little bit, grab the zip tie, pull it back up.
Huh. Is that on?
Yeah, keeps the arrow on the screen.
Oh, that's pretty slick.
Yeah. Again, like you said, necessity. You get sick of climbing, because if you drop an arrow from a tree stand, I don't want to leave it there. I mean, a lot of times I'm hunting trees with branches, so they're, in pine trees, they're hitting branches, and I don't know which way it's ending up down there. It could be knocked down, broadhead up. I don't know what's going on, and if I can't tell, I don't want to risk coming down and stepping into that arrow. So if I drop one out of the tree, I make a point to go down and get it immediately, just so that I don't risk, getting hurt on it. So, but you get sick and tired of climbing up and down for arrows all the time. So
No, that is, that is super dangerous. And that scenario right there. And I think it's, it's on guys like us to pass that simple little tip right there is, you drop an arrow and you're like, oh crap, you knock another one. And then an hour and a half later, you're coming out of the stand and you've forgotten about it.
yeah,
that's important stuff to pass on for sure.
Yeah, like a friend of mine, John's grandpa, actually used to say, he said to us all the time, "He who walks with arrow on string soon visits happy hunting ground." It's it's a little stuff like that, But and you think back to those days, back in the early. I mean, look at Fred Bear running around without even a hood on 4 arrows, broadhead sticking out of the end of the quiver. These kind of things, but. You're right. Now, I mean, with the stuff today, especially with the tree stand stuff, I can't push enough safety things on the tree stands. I build my own custom lineman belts. I teach people how to do them so that they're one-hand adjustable, so they're constantly wearing them and not having to fight with Prusik knots where they're going to just go forget it and not do it. This way, they're going to be safe all the time. Matter of fact, I just got a Facebook message yesterday from a guy who was out setting stands, and he had my custom-made lineman belt on there, which again uses a Rope Man 1 ascender, so you can adjust it all by one hand, so, in and out closer to the tree as you're climbing up and down. And he stepped on a screw-in step that was in the tree. It pulled right out of the soft poplar tree, and he dropped down, and that lineman belt caught him, and he just had a couple of scrapes, and lived to tell about it. He only dropped about 1.5 feet down and just got scraped up. But this safety aspect of everything about it, it doesn't matter if you're in a tree or you're climbing the mountains. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that you got to pay attention to. Walking across the shale slope's not the smartest thing to do unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I know exactly the post you're talking about. And I was going to message him and ask him to share that to the Stickbow Chronicles page, because man, that screw and step scare me. The older as I get older, I realize how dangerous some of the stuff is, and screw and steps they can be dangerous.
Yeah, when we've been at my house, we built this place 20 years ago. Well, 2006, so whatever that was. So it's almost 20 years, and but we had the property for 4 years before that. So yeah, about 20 years. And I have a practice stand that I put up out here, and I used screw and steps back then. And now they're like completely in a tree. There's nothing left of them. I think there's a 1/4 inch sticking out, from where they are. They're completely engulfed in there. But I never really been a fan of them. And not only that, the screw and steps, they're hard on your feet to stand on with that little rod. I don't see any reason to have them or any advantage to them. Climbing, it doesn't matter whatever method you use, but I think something that's actually strapped or attached to the tree is a smarter way to go.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit smarter. I still don't. I'm getting a little bit smarter.
Hey, it's all practice. You just got to be safe. That's it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't get on YouTube much. I mean, I don't get on YouTube at all. And I need to get on there and check out your Whitetail course, because it is a little bit frustrating. Oh, it's really frustrating. I suck at whitetail hunting, but I enjoy the heck out of it. But all the information that I see out there is, geared toward the Midwest. And so I'm looking forward to hearing how another guy does it in the big woods for sure.
Well, and I'll give you an example, like even the blacktail guys out there, Bob and James over at TradQuest. Well, James, he contacted me years ago, and he was like, "Look, I need some help I'm trying to bow hunt blacktails. I've been trying to do it with a longbow for 7 years, and in Oregon on public land in the mountains, and I'm getting my butt beat here. So I want to apply some of your whitetail tactics and see if they will work." And I mean, we had many hour-long conversations where he would explain what he's doing, and I would tell him how I do it. He'd come back and say, "Well, it's all blackberry bushes here. I can't preset. I have to." I can't run and gun this stuff. And, so, I mean, there was a lot to it, but he applied a lot of those tactics, and they ended up working really good for him too on the blacktail. So, I mean, I think a deer is a deer is a deer, as far as the way They handle food security, water, shelter, travel. There's some variations in terrain, some variations in that kind of stuff. But like I said, once you learn to hunt them on public land and you understand, like you said, the big woods and how to use non-man-made funnels in terrain. Because what we're doing, I don't hunt deer. I don't hunt deer at all. I hunt terrain and I hunt the wind, and those happen to be where the deer are going to be at. But those are what I'm actually hunting on. I can pull up my computer and use Google Earth and, CalTopo and stuff like that. And I can look at a piece of property in another state and figure out what's going on there. I can show up at that camp, to that place I've never been before at 2:30 in the morning, get my trailer unloaded, my wall tent set up, and then get out in the woods at 5:30 in the morning and go right into one of those spots in the dark, hang a tree stand, and then I got deer running by me all morning, just like I thought they would do on a map, So it's learning how to, figure out the terrain and then using a wind to your advantage, and that's where the deer are going to be.
Well, I'll have to drag you out here, walk you around here. And
yeah.
Is this a good spot?
Yeah, well, I watched some of because I think Clay's over there in Idaho too, right? Clay Hayes, isn't he over there?
He's quite a bit south of me. But yeah, kind of the same deal.
Yeah, which is basically straight up, straight down.
yeah, and thick.
Yeah, right. I see it's pretty crazy terrain out there.
Yeah, and I've said many times, if I put tension on the string twice in a year, and that's between bear, elk, and deer, literally, if I put tension on the string 4 times, it's been a big year. I mean, it's just,
right.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. And man, I'll tell you what, you want to make every time count.
For sure. That's the key. Yeah. Cause those opportunities can be a little more few and far between, but you got to love the same thing. That's the one thing that I really love about where I am here in Michigan, in northern Michigan. We have millions of acres of state land. I mean, from where I am all the way up through the north and all through the whole upper peninsula, it's just miles and miles of state land with a little bit of scattered about private in there, but it's mostly public. And I love that. I mean, I love the ability to roam. When I was down in the Detroit area and hunting these little pockets and stuff around there, or hunting private property, nothing bothered me more than running into fences, or I couldn't go here or couldn't go there. I hated it. I'll give up the antlers all day long. I would much rather go out in the big woods, roam wherever I want to, pick a spot 2 miles in, set up in there and kill a doe that I would, go to knock on a door to try and find permission to hunt a property, go sit out there, listen to his kids play on a swing set, watch a neighbor cut his grass and shoot 180 inch, it just doesn't mean that, to me, it's the wild places, again, like I said, I'm not going to see that chipmunk probably in his yard, but I'm going to find that chipmunk and I'm going to try and get to him in the woods. I want that rabbit hole. I want that adventure aspect of it,
That's it right there. The adventure, just like when we were 10, just like when we're 50, it's still the adventure that keeps you going.
Yeah, we went over the other day. I got a call to do a pressure washing job on a house. It was right next door to the house I grew up in, here on the lake over there. I went over there and it was pretty neat. I took I haven't been over there. It's a half hour from where I am now, but I haven't been there in a long time. And I took my wife with me. We went over there and I said, "Oh, look at this is right next door to where I grew up." They even changed the name, so I didn't even know it. Where they changed the name of the road, so it wasn't even where I thought I was going until I got there. And but we came out of there, I was showing her, I'm like, "You see this? Look at all this woods right here. See how it's all flooded, wooded timber swamp?" I'm like, "You know that when I was 9 and 10 years old, me and 3 buddies, we would literally go out there and we would spend a whole day, sun up till sundown, trying to walk across logs through this entire swamp for miles and not get wet. The goal was to not step in the water, jump from spot to spot, come up and grab a tree, a little sapling, and then try and ride it down and land on another log or a high spot, and that's what we did for hours. We never even knew where we came out at, we just, and it was, that's adventure. That's the stuff that, that's gone from today's society. Now that, these kids, they sit on a Nintendo and do all that stuff. I don't know how all that works, but, we love being in the woods and the adventure.
Just the fact that you said Nintendo shows that you're out of touch. I don't think anybody uses Nintendo anymore.
Right. Well, whatever. Yeah. Well, my daughter, whatever it is, the Wii box or the or Xbox. That's
Good
what it is. It's the
stuff, man.
Xbox thing.
That's good
Yeah.
stuff. Hey, we should have got together quite a bit earlier. I'm really, really glad that I got you on here. And like I said, for me, you introduced me to podcasts, so it's been really cool.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you're doing it out there too and getting done. You got some amazing episodes, great guests on there. I mean, yeah, it's pretty rare I don't, catch an episode. I mean, you keep doing what you're doing and, it's heading in the right direction. And, yeah, like I said, I we have to do this again sometime.
Sounds great, man. And I'm looking forward to checking out that Whitetail Course.
Yeah, that's there too. And then the YouTube stuff on the YouTube channel, if you get into YouTube, and you look for Traditional Bowhunting and Wilderness Podcast on YouTube, I think I have close to 450 videos out there, and they're all free. The course you actually buy through my website. The course is a purchase at $75, but on YouTube I got hundreds and hundreds of deer hunting tips and tactics and a lot of information on there too. That's all for free.
Oh, geez. I thought they were one and the same. You got two different things going on there.
Yeah, the course is the YouTube stuff is, like I said, over 400 videos of all kinds of things, with 90% of it being hunting related on my YouTube channel. And every bit of that is 100% free. Huh. I have the podcast, which is, on, again, tbwpodcast.com for Traditional Bowhunting Wilderness Podcast, which is for free. The only thing I charge for is the 3 courses. I have the Bowhunting Whitetails course, and then I have a Save Thousands course for people that are looking to buy any new trucks or trailers or campers or anything. It'll teach you how to save more money than you could ever imagine on. And then I have another course on how to monetize your passion. So if you're looking to get into podcasting and make it into money, start a YouTube channel where you can make money, you got products or a business you want to start, that course will teach you how to it'll hold your hand through the whole process on how to take it from concept all the way through to actually making money with it. And like I said, it literally takes you step by step and holds your hand. And it's dirt cheap. It's $59. So, but it's like 5 hours of everything you need step by step for the whole process. So, but those 3 courses, those are the only places I charge money, because even in the Whitetails course, there's some of that stuff that I'm not giving out for free on YouTube. If I did, then with how many people follow me, I won't have anywhere to hunt anymore,
Oh, yeah.
Because of the people in them. So that stuff that's what the course is. The course is I give you a lot of great information in YouTube for free, but it's going to get you most of the way there or halfway there. And then you got to do some thinking, but the real serious down to the super fine detailed stuff, that's where the bow hunting course comes in.
Apparently it worked well for the Wenzels.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if I ever seen their name pop up that they bought that course, I would probably I'd have to celebrate that day. I don't know what, but that would be pretty crazy. But like I said, it's pretty neat to see the people that come into there,
Yeah. Well, I'll have links in the show notes for that. Again, thanks, Jason. And again, and you know what? Here you are, kind of a podcast hero of mine, and it's the first time I forgot to hit record, like the first 10 minutes. So how do you like them apples?
That was funny. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But like I said, been there myself we all have, everybody has, it's all part of the game.
Yep. Check the box. Yep. Hey, appreciate your time, Jason. Let's stay in touch.
We will do that for sure. Thanks again for having me on.